Major snows, but overall mild temperatures. That'll be a key theme in this video. Hello and welcome to the 2020-2021 winter forecast from Neoweather. I'm meteorologist Brian Ivy with Mark Spencer.
This has obviously been a crazy year with the COVID-19 pandemic and much more. We hope you and your loved ones are doing well. The weather has also been crazy with wildfires, drastic temperature changes, and an extremely active hurricane season. And that could have some implications on our seasonal outlook.
It's going to be quite an interesting winter this year with La Nina currently setting up. However, there are several other factors that also come into play this winter that will affect what we actually see. We'll show you what that means for much of the country.
We will, of course, break down the country by region with our in-depth forecast for each area. Some regions will certainly see a good amount of snow and cold air, while others will have another very warm winter. But does that mean those areas will see less snow, Brian?
You know, that's a very common misconception. Just because the overall trend is mild doesn't mean severe bouts of cold don't happen. I think the setup is there for big ticket winter storms.
Yeah, I agree with that. While you're watching our forecast, we'll feature our NeoWise questions throughout the show, along with a couple winter weather facts. Now, we may not be keeping score, but feel free to at home and let us know how you did in the comments.
And if you're running a snow and ice management business, stay tuned for information on how Neoweather can help your business. We save you money and help you operate more efficiently with our winter forecasting solutions and support. We'll also tell you about changes coming to the way you get your National Weather Service alerts for winter weather.
And if you're watching our show live and have questions, be sure to stay tuned at the end of the show for our live Q&A with Brian and myself. Post any questions you have in the comments. Our winter forecast begins right now.
Let's kick off the maps portion of our winter forecast video talking about the overall pattern setup. One of the main things meteorologists look at first is, are we going to have a La Nina, an El Nino, or something else in the oceans? Oceans dominate the earth, about 70-something% water on our planet, so we really look to see what they're trying to show us. Warm temperatures across portions just west of the United States and also to the east of the United States. A lot of warmth on this map. Where isn't there warm temperatures? Well, right along the equator there in the Pacific Ocean, that is well below average sea surface temperatures, and that shows us that there is a La Nina that has already established itself. It will continue like that as we go throughout the next few, maybe even several months. These computer models, and we have several of them here, are all forecasting La Nina conditions through January and most likely into February and March as well. Some of them even showing well into a moderate, fairly intense La Nina. That Nino 3.4 is one of the main areas that we look at for that prediction of La Nina versus the El Nino. Now, with this starting La Nina that we've seen set up, with some of the other conditions that we've looked at in different areas of the globe, with pressure patterns and ocean and atmospheric temperature patterns as well, we expect a negative NAO and negative Arctic oscillation to be around as we go through late fall into the first portion of winter, into December and maybe into early January as well. That is a dominant area of high pressure. This is a big ridge that sets up in the northern Atlantic around Greenland. And guess what? You have all this cold air bottled up across the Arctic, and it spills into the eastern and the central United States, also into Europe around Italy and France and UK as well. And we could see a few of these different waves of really cold air. We've already seen the pattern start to establish this already here in October. So as that continues, we could deal with a very front-loaded winter with a lot of cold and snow early on. But the overall pattern with this jet stream is going to be blowing in some decent warm, mild, moist air coming in from the Pacific Ocean. That will likely produce a lot of wet weather, even compared to average across the Pacific Northwest. And also, this is the dominant storm track where we see a lot of systems spin out of the Colorado Rockies into the plains and then into portions of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and Northeast as well. So certainly nothing that tells us we're going to be dry and boring across much of the Midwest into the East. Do you know the difference between a special weather statement, hazardous weather outlook, advisory, and warning? Over 100 different types of weather alerts could have been issued by the National Weather Service. Many say that could quickly become confusing.
Even if myself that is not colorblind, I look at that map and I can't tell if that's the same shade of red or not. But when you're talking about that many different colors, there's that many different types of hazards out there. So then we really have to take a look at do we need to issue all those watches, warnings, and advisories for each one of those hazards?
The NWS understands this. Public feedback and studies from social scientists have encouraged them to make changes. The weather arm of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration started simplifying winter alerts a few years ago. So what does it mean for you? Winter weather hazard types are combined if they cover similar impacts. The purpose is to focus more on when and how you will be impacted. The storm type details are still provided in the what section of existing products. This allows you to see what the specific hazard is and make safety decisions more efficiently. Watches mean significant weather is possible in a couple days. Advisories mean an inconvenience is soon to come or currently happening. Think of a slower drive to work because of some slick spots. And warnings are for major events. Think freezing rain that turns roads into an ice skating rink, or heavy snow that piles up to 10 inches. Another big NWS winter edition is snow squall warnings.
Just like you had in the summertime when you have a cold front moving through and you get a line of showers and thunderstorms along that cold front, it's the same in the winter, except this produces heavy snow for a brief period of time, strong winds, and near whiteout conditions.
Around 800 fatalities occur each year due to snow squalls. These warnings should help travelers be more alert that they are entering an area with visibility and road conditions that deteriorate very quick. We have already seen some snow squalls this autumn that produce a few inches of snow and cause dozens of crashes. More revamping to NWS hazards and alerts are coming over the next couple years. For Neoweather, I'm meteorologist Brian Ivy.
All right, kicking off our region-by-region forecast, starting in the northeastern United States. Let's look first along the I-95 corridor. Unfortunately, for our friends here, to be generally mild and dry overall for the winter. Now, that's not to say a couple systems won't bring some cold air or maybe even some snow. It'll just be very infrequent. You'll want to get further inland and into interior New England to see the colder air, especially early, and several systems that will bring some snow, but it could also be some mixed precipitation at times too. Further north up into Canada, that's where we'll see the more active pattern with frequent cold and snow, and that will actually translate into northern Maine as well. That'll be north of that jet stream we just saw a moment ago. Now, looking across the middle Atlantic, not much of a winter to be found here either, folks. Generally mild and dry overall for the winter, but again, that's not to say a couple systems won't bring some cold or some snow, especially to the mountains. It just won't be persistent through the winter. A little bit colder across the upper Ohio Valley, where we'll see several shots of cold air early, and then on off into Ohio and Pennsylvania, we'll see several clipper systems and lake effect snow as well into northern Ohio and northwestern Pennsylvania. Looking across the southeastern United States, really a pretty quiet winter here. Actually, it should be a pretty good winter for the orange crop in Florida. Generally mild and dry overall across the southeastern United States, but again, a couple systems could bring some colder air at times, even maybe a little bit of snow, especially across the southern Appalachians, even in the portions of northern Georgia and far northern Alabama. Wouldn't surprise me too much. The battleground will be the mid-Mississippi Valley and the lower Ohio Valley. That's where we'll see the warm and cold kind of swing back and forth through the winter, rain to snow, maybe even a little bit of ice at times too. Now finally on off into the Midwest and Great Lakes. This is where we'll see some of the cold air. The core of the cold air will be from the western Great Lakes into the northern plains. So much of Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, northern upper Michigan, that's where we're going to see much of that cold air, especially the first half of the winter. We'll also see several Clipper systems move through. Now, as we get into the second half of winter, things could start to moderate a little bit. We'll have to keep an eye on that. It will be active overall. We'll see a lake effect across much of Michigan where we usually see the lake effect, especially the first half of the winter. The second half, it's a little tough right now. We'll have to keep an eye on it. And again, the battleground will be across much of Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Now, if you're looking for accurate, reliable, and dependable weather forecasts, whether you're in the Midwest, Northeast, or wherever, check this out. If you run a commercial snow and ice management company, you already know that making smart decisions begins with the weather forecast.
But before savvy snow managers roll out their fleet of equipment, they need accurate and reliable weather information. Neoweather provides impact-specific forecasts for your coverage area.
Going above and beyond for high-risk and zero-tolerance accounts is essential in a competitive marketplace. Our clients say that we are the edge that they need.
It's absolutely vital. I would go so far as to say if you don't have an accurate forecast, there's no way you can be competitive with the people that do. So with Neoweather, you're going to get a 90% correct forecast. With the apps, you're flipping a coin.
Yes, definitely. Frustrated with weather apps and local TV forecasts? They aren't meant for $1,000 business decisions. You need accurate weather forecasts with a focus on impacts and your service area. You need Neoweather to give you peace of mind.
Detailed weather information allows snow contractors to better schedule staff, prepare supplies and equipment, and have quicker response times.
Yeah, take this for example. Holding crews back a couple of hours based on a more accurate storm arrival time saves your monthly investment for our service.
Personalized service, great communication. It's a great partnership. I think they go the extra mile to help us succeed.
We have a new client portal system to deliver interactive radar, current warnings, our forecast products, and more.
Whether it's days out with our Neo First Look or our exclusive forecast breakdown, you'll receive detailed and easy to understand content. Got a question? Just give us a call or send us an email. We're here for you 24/7. You can't get that with Siri. Visit our website and request your free quote today.
Neoweather, the leading front in weather.
Shimming a little bit further off towards the west in the plains, it's typically one of the more cold and wintry spots of our nation, but this year, even colder than average. We're talking about multiple Arctic blasts really descending on down across, even into the upper Midwest at times. This is going to be a pretty potent winter, we think, with a decent amount of activity swinging out of Alberta in the form of those minor snowfalls known as clippers. But the dominant jet stream will likely come up north and then swing back down south at times. And I do think things will come together once in a while for more of those big deal winter storms and even some blizzards across this area. Further west, again, this is really one of our main areas of true winter weather. Very cold and snowy because we have the moisture plus multiple batches of cold air. So even like Seattle and Portland, even in the lower elevations, you're still talking about probably much more snow than normal. At least the potential is there. And then we're going to hopefully get some of that more rain and snow down into portions of at least northern California and northern Utah. But are we going to break the drought? No. If for the areas that really need the rain, we're not going to have that Pineapple Express type pattern that brings a lot of moisture across portions of the southwest. That's all going to stay off towards the north. So this does look like an area of high pressure will set up, kind of similar to what we've seen in areas of the southeast. And that's going to allow that generally mild pattern to dominate, but especially a lot of ridging for dry weather. So even places like the higher elevations of New Mexico and Arizona, you're probably going to be seeing less snow than average. This will be your battle zone. So skiing out across portions of Aspen in towards Utah will be probably okay. It's going to be waves of cold, some snow, and then you'll be warming back up shortly after.
All right, putting all the pieces together now, let's take a look at the entire United States and start with our temperature outlook. Not too much winter to be found on it looking at this. The core of the cold air again will be across the northern portions of the United States, portions of Idaho, Montana, northern North Dakota. That will be the core of the cold air. Still chilly though. Minneapolis, the western Great Lakes, further west into Wyoming, and the Pacific Northwest. Generally average conditions along much of the west coast towards Salt Lake City, Denver, the Central Plains, and portions like Chicago and northern lower Michigan, near average. Then we get into the warmer air from the southwestern United States into much of Texas, Oklahoma, much of the Mississippi River Valley, the Ohio River Valley, and the Northeast. Now, we did mention earlier that portions of Canada could see a little bit cooler air hang in there, for especially that first half of the winter, but we do think the second half of the winter could moderate just enough to push them maybe just slightly above average, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them slightly below average too. It really just depends how long that cold air can be sustained there. Very warm along much of the eastern seaboard and the Gulf Coast. Looking at precipitation now, we have two areas to focus on. The first one will be out west, plenty of moisture to the Pacific Northwest, even in Idaho and western Montana. The other sweet spot for this will be the Central Plains into the western Great Lakes. Plenty of moisture to be found here. Very dry though along the Gulf Coast, fairly dry conditions for much of the East Coast and the southwestern United States. So where does that leave us with snowfall? Well, where we saw those two areas of precipitation above normal, that's where we're going to see snowfall above normal. So we don't put snowfall totals on a map. We don't predict that for the winter. We look at snowfall compared to average in terms of percentage. So we're looking at about 150% above normal for much of the Pacific Northwest into portions of Montana and even much of Wyoming too. You'll see plenty of snow out there, so any locations to go skiing, yeah, it's going to be real good out there. The other sweet spot, big ticket snows across the Great Lakes and Midwest, Chicago, Minneapolis, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Marquette. Yeah, Green Bay, that's where we're looking at the big ticket snow for the winter. 1.5 times the amount of snow compared to average. Now, not so much snow, but slightly above average for much of the northern plains, even down into Kansas, across the middle Mississippi Valley, portions of the Ohio River Valley, and up into interior New England. And then near average snow from Boston to DC, but again, that'll generally be the first half of the winter. I think by the time we get past mid-January, your chances for snow go down quite a bit. And again, not too much snow as you get south of Interstate 40. And that is our winter forecast for 2020-2021. Thank you for watching the 2020-2021 winter forecast from Neoweather.
For more information about Neoweather, visit our website at neoweather.us. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram for the latest weather updates.
And if you're looking for accurate weather forecasts for your business this winter, be sure to visit our website and request a free quote today. We would love to learn more about your company.
Our weather forecasts are focused around your operation and contain specific impacts that directly affect you. Plus, having easy access to our team of meteorologists allows you to make the best possible decisions 24/7.
Thank you for watching. Our live Q&A is coming up next.
compared to
Hey, let's
where
take two on that because I didn't unmute the microphones.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed our special because we didn't know if you did or not because we can't communicate for the last few seconds. Sorry about that, guys.
I didn't hit a button. It's my fault. It's my fault. I
Not a
take full
technical
responsibility.
difficulty. It is a user error. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Appreciate it. This was our 10th, can't believe it, 10th forecast that we've done for our winter forecast.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you think about the first one, we barely had a green screen and lights or anything like that. And we were doing it in my apartment.
How times have changed.
We did change up the location here and there, though. We had some good times with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We did some actual TV studio type shoots and whatnot with different varying levels of equipment, but now things have certainly improved in that category. Technology is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
So guys, first
Especially
of
hit
all,
the button.
this is a that does help. This is a Q&A. So if you guys have questions about the winter forecast that we didn't answer in the main presentation, feel free to ask away.
We're watching right here as
Yeah.
well, so we can see kind of as you type and everything. So just feel free to throw it in the chat there, and we'll do the best we can with it.
We'll give you some additional information as well as some of the new changes have happened. We do want to let you know this winter forecast was filmed within the last few weeks or so, and the actual forecast was all put together within the last month to about 2 months, compiled throughout that time. So some things do get adjusted and changed as we get closer to the onset of winter. We're able to see a little bit better through November into portions of December. So no radical changes from what you saw a little bit ago, but certainly an adjustment.
Absolutely, yeah. It takes quite a bit of time to put this together. We usually start, usually just after Labor Day, about mid-September, we'll start watching various analogs and whatnot. There's a lot of discussion within our team as to what we expect to happen through the year. And yeah, like Brian said, we actually filmed this about 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it has changed a little bit. I know the La Nina's gotten a little bit stronger.
It has, yeah. That could be very interesting.
How about that record ice in Oklahoma City?
Whew, this has been a very
Late
interesting fall, winter across portions of the middle of the country. I mean, we've seen record snowfall, the all-time snowiest on record in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
That's right.
Other areas across the northern plains into, I mean, Denver had that major temperature swing, big
temperature swing, the snow. We had the ice in Oklahoma City just the other day. Some places had over an inch of ice over about a 2.5 day period.
Yeah, it was multiple different
crazy.
rounds, and we have some pictures from one of our storm chasing friends, Colt Forney, on our Facebook page. So if you go to Neoweather and check that out, I mean, we're talking about some major thick ice.
Hey, we got our first question. So first, everybody, thanks for all the great jobs and all that. We appreciate all that. Thanks for following us as well and joining us tonight. We do have our first question from Jonathan, who asks, why do you show mild temperatures in northern Ohio, but then forecast 125% of normal snow?
You know, that's kind of the main topic about our winter forecast this year. That's how we started it right off the top, is how we can be mild but snowy. And it's because we're expecting a very active pattern. A jet stream that has a good amount of moisture with it. While it's going to be generally overall mild, and there could be some stretches this winter with maybe some significant warmth like what we've seen over the last few years, there will be cold outbreaks. There's really good bottled up cold across portions of Canada, and it's bleeding into portions of the Northwest and Northern Plains. When that comes back through the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes and Midwest, if it lines up with the moisture, that could be a big snowstorm.
That certainly
and
could.
That's where you get a few of those, and all of a sudden you're above average.
Yep, that's true. And we're kind of right on the line with everything. It looks like that primary storm track will probably be right over or very near the Ohio River. So it's going to vary from storm to storm. Obviously, we can't pick that out until those systems begin to develop. If only we could, we'd be rich. So it will change at times. There will be times where these big systems will develop and northern Ohio will be rain or maybe not so much snow. And will end up being on the warmer side of that system. So
yeah, there could certainly still be some events, even in areas that should be colder than average, that are still more on the rainy side.
There's the converse side too. Where there's warmer, it's cold somewhere else. Absolutely. Our good friend Dave Sauer, he actually has a couple things here. He thinks the Upper Ohio Valley is the battle zone with frequent ice and snow, and he also asks if we think Lake Erie will remain ice-free. That's not easy to say for the entire winter.
You know, it might honestly not be a huge difference from the last few winters that we've seen, which was not too much ice.
We had almost no ice last year. By the time we got ice, we were over halfway through the winter. It was mostly the western basin. Now keep in mind, the western basin doesn't take too much to freeze over. It's fairly shallow, especially in the winter. So it will usually get some ice a lot sooner than the central basin. And the eastern basin over by Buffalo, that's the deepest portion of the lake. So that usually takes a lot longer to freeze. But yeah, I kind of agree with that, with its active pattern, especially the second half of the winter, maybe being a little bit more mild. February, March maybe, that could keep the ice off the lake this year. And it doesn't necessarily mean we'll see more lake effect though.
Right. We tried to predict a few times in the last 5-7 years or so with these very warm early falls, even very warm summers, that if we have cold air blasts early on in the season, we're going to get big lake effect. But it really just depends on the specific setup, where the high pressure is, where the low pressure is, and where the actual wind flow is. You can have very cold air moving across the lake, but if it's not in the right manner, you just don't get any lake effects.
That's right. A little discussion here, and the last time the lake froze over, I believe it was 2016. I think it was 2016 we saw the last...
2015, 2016,
yes, I believe so.
That we had those few cold winters, and 2 of those were like extremely cold, and it was almost a total freeze, I think. That was like near record amounts of ice.
It was near record amounts of ice, absolutely, yeah, especially for the entire Great Lakes as a whole. There was a lot of ice as a whole on the Great Lakes. Some of it, the levels hadn't been seen in quite some time. It takes a lot. Just because it's cold in some of these places doesn't mean we're going to get ice on all the lakes. The lakes are very deep, with Lake Erie being the shallowest of all the lakes, so it freezes over a lot quicker. But, I mean, there's some very deep parts of Lake Ontario, and that's even smaller than Lake Erie. Yeah. So it takes quite a bit to really get the conditions to get the ice, and you have to make sure it's not, being whipped around by the wind. That's going to keep the ice off of it.
Absolutely, yeah. If you get a couple days just here and there up into the middle upper 30s, which is still chilly, and then a little bit of wind, it's going to mess up that ice cover for sure. And overall, with the Great Lakes and lake effect snow, that is something that's so hard to forecast just a few days out, a few hours out.
Absolutely.
That if for seasonal patterns, it doesn't really matter if it looks to be a super warm winter or super cold winter. You can only get the just tiny little bit of trends on that. And for this year, there's too much uncertainty.
It's true. Well, we don't have any more questions at the moment, but anything you guys do have, again, feel free to post it in the chat. We'll probably be here through about 8 o'clock here at the latest. And I'm not going to keep you guys all night, but we do have a couple other things to kind of go over. You want to go over a couple graphics?
Absolutely. Sweet. We'll take care of that. We want to go a little bit more in depth into some different aspects. Thank you very much, my assistant. We'll go into a little bit more in-depth details about some other factors that I thought were pretty interesting with the winter. Some of it's kind of an update on some of the latest stuff that we've seen from right now through the last couple of weeks. The other stuff is a little bit more just kind of additional detail. So bringing up a couple maps here, this is the trend with La Nina. Now remember, from the main forecast portion, La Nina is below average sea surface temperatures, the actual water temperatures across the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Now, this event has been pretty widespread. Notice, these are your sea surface temperatures. This is all of the Pacific right here. And a lot of times we might just see these above or below average temperatures across the eastern Pacific, but this is what's known as more basin-wide below average temperatures. And there's some values in there that are now getting well below average. And you can really see that La Nina strengthening here. Once it gets in towards this department, you're talking about a very strong La Nina, and there's some forecasts out there that do have a very strong La Nina. When you have a very strong ENSO cycle, whether it's La Nina or El Nino, that overwhelms the pattern. And that's normally a pretty dominant signal into what's going to happen. Now, one of the other big impacts that we look for is correlations between different areas of the world, different pressure patterns, different temperature patterns that actually drive the overall patterns and give us the general weather that we have, the dominant weather that we have throughout the course of winter or any season. So the NEO, or the North Atlantic Oscillation, that sits up around Greenland. It's a blocking pattern that allows for cold air generally to come down through Canada and through much of the central and eastern United States. Now, typically with a central base La Nina, and this is more of a basin-wide event, you have a lot of tendency towards in this area here, the fancy box, a positive NAO, which means you're not getting a good blocking pattern, and it favors typically more warmer weather across portions of the central and eastern U.S. Fun fact, we've only seen about 1 month of a negative NAO during winter for the last several years. So it's not been very common. And again, this year, it looks like it won't be common for much of the true winter. Now, I mentioned in the video that we do expect better tendencies for a negative NAO during November into December. Technically, that's just part of meteorological winter. So this is something else. These are analogs. And if we look back into the past at similar type patterns that we've seen over the last several months and are seeing right now and are projected to see over the next few months, that's how we come up with these different years. We factored in tropical activity, the stronger La Nina, and some other factors as well across the world. And we kind of came up with 2 different camps based off of kind of the factors that we looked at. One were years that showed us a pretty dominant warm area across all the south and much of the east, cold bleeding into portions of the northern U.S. here. And then the other one showed us a lot more in the way of cold coming down and not too much warmth, but some warmth on the bottom half. So not really an exact similar look between these two, but that's not the only thing that we look at to forecast. We also look at computer models, and there's many different models out there, and they're all generally similar. This one is honestly one of the cooler looking ones, and this is not cool, folks. This is widespread warmth, very similar to that one analog. Lots of warmth across portion of the deep south and across the southern plains all the way up through the northeast. The only hint is for some of these cold blasts to come down at times across the Pacific Northwest into the northern plains. So this is kind of the best looking model compared to kind of the winter forecast ideas that we presented.
Yeah, that looks like a summertime forecast in January. Wow.
It's going to be fun, right?
It'll be interesting. So we did get a couple questions while we were going through all that. First off, our great friend Aaron Thompson has joined us late, but he enjoys the Christmas background.
Yeah.
And is really liking La Nina.
Yeah, there you go.
We also
gets you in the spirit.
A couple other questions here. Our folks at Blade Property Maintenance, who follow us quite a bit, asked about a snow powers forecast. Now, we do have if you go to our YouTube channel or if you
on our website
down,
as well?
Yeah, on our website. If you scroll down the Facebook page quite a bit, a few weeks ago, we did put out a forecast that is more geared towards snow contractors. But if you're looking for how much snow am I going to get this winter, you won't find it from us. We don't do that. It's a crapshoot. It's a coin flip. We look at it, are we going to be above average, near average, or below average? And that's the best way to really look at it when we're talking an outlook like this, or we're looking over several months. How much snow, it really is just a flip of a coin.
Often, because it could be literally a very dominant pattern that's either super cold or super warm, and there's one storm that hits that delivers the big impact, or you just happen to miss out on that one storm, and all of a sudden now you're way below average.
Exactly.
You know what's interesting about snowfall in general and temperature extremes is you come up with the average, but typically average is literally made up of extremes. There's not too many times where it's actually near average.
Not too often. Another question, we had a couple questions from Luke, but we'll take it one at a time. The first question he asked is if we think the Upper Ohio Valley will be the battleground for ice and snow events again. We kind of covered that. Yes, it will be.
Whoops.
Yep, there we go. It will kind of be the battleground. That storm track is going to be nearby, so when you're near that storm track, it does shift throughout the winter based on where everything else is at that time. So yes, it is going to be the battleground again this year. We'll have to just kind of take it one system at a time because, well, that's all we can do.
Yeah, and we don't think it's going to be in form of more dominant cold, but there could definitely be enough cold blasts that kind of come in and the main warm area stays just off towards the south and east. Something to see.
Right. Jonathan also asks what our confidence level is in above normal snow, and is there a scenario in which winter just falls on its face? I love it when it falls on its face. It's usually not a good thing.
We don't want Mother Nature and Old Man Winter to get hurt now, don't we?
But I think what he means is there a scenario where winter just kind of...
We don't have a winter. Yeah,
we don't have a winter. It's gone.
Yeah, I mean, there's honestly a lot of signs that it could be something similar to the last few years. Looking at some of the latest meteorology over the course of the last few weeks since we actually recorded some of this, and again, this doesn't drastically change our forecast thoughts. There are signs really pointing towards the polar vortex, which is that area of air that can kind of push down cold air blasts that be really kind of tight and strong up near North Pole. And that doesn't necessarily dislodge areas of cold air that much in the United States. With the strong La Nina, there's a very high correlation to widespread warmth across the United States. There are signs that are pointing at a dud of a winter, another year with just extremely above average temperatures across a lot of the map. And this might be conservative. Not going to jump ship and go fully onto that right now, but if that does happen, you're getting maybe 1 or 2 major winter storms, and it's just going to be a lot of mix and a lot of rain.
Yeah, a lot of that will come into a better picture here over about the next month or so. Which, well, yeah, we know winter's kind of coming, but I mean, winter doesn't really start until, well, meteorologically, December 1st, astronomically, closer to Christmas. So we do have some time. Oh, by the way, Jonathan really liked that answer, so much that he commented.
Good, thank you.
So glad.
We try to explain things as thoroughly as possible. And kind of to reference your point, like the last few years, we've done updates to our winter forecast, and we don't know if we're going to bust or not until you probably get more into January or so.
Yeah,
if
you're full disclosure, we totally busted like everybody else last year. It would have been a great forecast for the other side of the northern hemisphere. It'd have been perfect.
Yeah, there's a lot of widespread warmth. And as far as meteorologists go and climatologists and everything, there's so much skill within the field, but a lot of that is more towards the shorter term. We still have a lot to learn when you're talking about months.
A lot of this long-range forecasting we do with these teleconnections and such, this stuff it's not relatively new, but it's newer. It's not stuff we had 30, 40 years ago.
Not really.
After we kind of discovered that these things were there and had better understanding, we went back and said, okay, what in the past history has kind of lined up with these events? And we've done a lot of that, and it is coming a long way, but really the true long-range forecasting is still pretty young. So.
And the models are getting a lot better, too. They did a much better job than most of the humans last year. But again, don't take that as the models beat the humans when it comes to a winter storm or to the high temperature the next day. That is totally different.
Absolutely. Not weather-related, but Luke says he's a tech nerd.
Okay.
And he wants to know what software we use to make our graphics and to do our videos. So I'll take this one here. So live video on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or a lot of these other platforms. Use kind of the two big softwares, OBS Studio, which is actually what we're using right now, and another program called XSplit Broadcaster, which we've also used. We do have it. We kind of prefer OBS Studio a little bit more. It gives us a little bit more control with some things, specifically with being able to manipulate what we have behind us. Our graphics and what's behind us here, really what's back here is a green screen. It's actually what I'm looking at right now. I don't see a picture, but if I go over here, I do have a monitor. I also have a monitor right under my camera. And believe it or not, what we use to display this, Microsoft PowerPoint.
That's
what
it.
we got. We make most of our graphics actually in PowerPoint. Most of the winter forecast was made in PowerPoint. So that's actually what we're using. This is not crazy out of the box stuff. It's not Photoshop crazy here. I'm not really a big fan of Photoshop, and that's what we're using. It's widely available. OBS Studio, of course, is free online. You can get XSplit for free, or you can pay for it to get a couple other features that suit fancy. And that's what we got. Minus now we also have a nice camera. We have our wireless lav mics that we're using. That has to go through another system. That then goes through a soundboard. That then gets
that's where the big money's at.
Yeah. So. It's,
but yeah, graphics are
something.
Not too much. It's not that bad from that side of the things. And if you're curious on how we edit some of the other videos that we put out, it's either Premiere Pro or you have Magix.
Yeah, it's another program that I have, but. It's nothing crazy, believe it or not.
No Magic TV station software exactly, but it's amazing, again, what I said earlier, how technology has improved and allowed us to much better tell a story.
We can certainly put some TV stations that run for their money, though.
Some of them, sure.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we'll still take some questions. We still got some time. Appreciate you guys hanging around. We did get one from Wayne. He says, so most of the snow will fall in the later part of fall and first few weeks of winter for northeastern Ohio.
Yeah, it's all compared to average. So comparatively to average, we typically don't have a ton of snow in November and into December. A lot of times it's more of a late onset type of thing. That's kind of reversed this year. That doesn't mean overall you're going to be measuring more than half of your snow early into the season. Could it happen? Sure.
Yeah, overall we do think winter will be a little bit more front loaded. I think once we get past like late January or so, things will kind of calm down.
And watch us have another wonderful
yeah.
springtime of back to a more winter type pattern. Now we've had this lovely fall with now all of a sudden a decent amount of rain, all these cool temperatures, lots of clouds.
It happens every year.
Yeah.
We actually had a pretty good fall, actually. We actually had really good weather, I thought. Great display of colors here in northern Ohio as well. Even downstate towards the Ohio River had an amazing display of colors.
Yeah,
So,
it's really nice there.
we had this nice kind of well-rounded summer and spring. We had some heat, but not crazy. We had some cooler weather. We had precip. So we had great color with the leaves. And really, we didn't do too bad on weather, believe it or not. There were some pretty nice days in there. So
Well, we certainly
Take
lucked
it
out
like
from
you.
all the crazy tropical systems, all the wildfires.
Yeah.
There was a lot of very
This is
eccentric
true.
weather across our country the last
it's been a
few.
crazy year. Ice.
Seriously, guys, Texas and Oklahoma in later October, major ice storm. It was 20 degrees in northern Texas, 92 in far southern Texas. That is not normal.
No,
That's crazy.
72-degree difference across your state. Now Texas is quite big. We get that, but that's crazy. Yeah, and I've been in Oklahoma City in an ice storm. It's no fun. They tell you, they shut everything down. They tell you don't go out. It's gonna be bad. People go out,
Yeah.
and they end up on the side of I-40.
Yeah, I think one of
Every
the
time.
recent rain events that we had after one of our 3-week stretches of dry weather, there was a lot of car accidents after that. It's amazing, kind of the
Yes.
recency bias that we have when we're not used to something.
Can't fly down the road in the rain. It doesn't usually work out too well.
Yeah, and then you have that layer of oil and dirt
You got
normally
that
stuck.
too. Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, absolutely. Not a good time.
Let me check YouTube really here. We're running our YouTube live as well, see if there's any questions on there.
I don't have any graphics to show with it, but we do have some, dare I say, snow in the forecast for early next week, Brian. I think so.
Yeah.
We're looking at Sunday night and the Monday. We're
Yeah.
getting cold temperatures coming across the lake. Nice little trough coming in. Good wind setup.
It doesn't look bad.
Doesn't look bad. How much are we going to get? Well, it's just a little too soon to tell.
There's a lot of uncertainty always with these early season type lake effect snow events. It does look to be a nice cold blast of air that'll traverse across the Great Lakes. It's with a little weak system, so it'll be kind of rain, changing over to some snow during the day, back into western Michigan on Sunday, then over into night, and that transitions more into northern Ohio, northern PA, upstate New York. And it could be in the higher terrain, mainly Pennsylvania into upstate New York, I think, where you're getting maybe several inches, possible. Outside of that, maybe a couple inches on grass. We'll see, though.
I'm being told my mic is muted. It is muted.
Oh, no.
I must have hit the button. Thank you very much, Luke, for telling me my mic was muted.
We're just having all sorts of
I must
audio
have hit the
problems.
button
Goodness.
on. That was really. There's a mute button on
You're
the back.
2 for 2 on user error.
Buttons are not my friend today, apparently. Thank you for that, though. I didn't know that. But all right, now that we're back to where we are, yeah. So it'll be interesting here Sunday night and Monday. I don't think it's going to be a big event by any means. Someone could end up with 3 or 4 inches of snow. Wouldn't surprise me. These early season events can tend to do that sometimes.
Yeah, and out towards the west, like Chicagoland into Iowa and whatnot, there's a few events that models had very light accumulations, temperatures in the middle
yeah.
to upper 30s, and big
Half
snow
foot of
squall
snow.
came through to the Des Moines area. It dropped over a half foot of snow in spots. Chicago had multiple days of some light snow showers that accumulated a little bit on grass and roofs and stuff like that. So models can certainly overdo it on temperatures with these type of setups. So should be enough cold air to get accumulating snow. It's just, is it going to be on concrete? Is it going to really affect things? Again, something to iron out over the next few days.
Yes. So Tyler wants to know how Southwest Michigan is looking for snow.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to be in the right spot of the battle zone to where even a milder winter, it's not going to be as much of a blowtorch probably that far west. and you should see chances for some big storms. There really is good confidence that it's going to be an active pattern, a robust jet stream. I mean, you are in the sweet spot still, and this is something that we did put together weeks ago, but I wouldn't change it up much where the sweet spot is. I think these two areas are pretty good. If anything, I think you're too warm probably across much of the Ohio Valley and portions of the Northeast. So I'd knock it down a little bit there, make it a little bit less snowier if we were readjusting this right now. But still, this is kind of where your cold air is going to feed in at times. Your jet stream's going to run along like this, so low pressures are going to track somewhere in the area. It doesn't take much to get some decent storms. I want to encourage you, if you are a snow lover, that this winter has a much better chance, especially if you're further north, especially north of I-90, for some decent wintry events. Even, again, if it melts right after and all of a sudden you have 3-4 days of warm weather. And we're back to the right main screen. There we go.
It worked out. I needed a point where I go back to PowerPoint and put everything back while something else was going on.
Looking proper.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I was going to have my son help me, but he's not here tonight. I was going to have him help me with some of this.
He's a good director.
He knows how to actually run
learning.
some of this, which is really cool. So some of this is still a little new to us, and we did some new things this year. Probably saw some lower thirds pop up and whatnot. Those are pretty cool.
Love to try things.
Tyler says thank you. Luke said you made that snowfall graphic with PowerPoint. Yes, we did. We sure did. And maybe next year I can make it do some more fun stuff. We'll see. But yeah.
Snowman popping out.
About the only thing I can kind of make him do is spin like we had in that intro. That's really about all I can make him do. But that's a cool little effect in PowerPoint too. Yeah, so seems like we're caught up on questions here. Did you have anything on YouTube question-wise?
Somebody asked for snow in Virginia. Probably not that great.
No.
Even if there's some cold blasts, it's not really the best location to get everything to line up. If anything, maybe the first late fall, early winter, maybe. Otherwise, this might be a pretty low snow winter. I don't think you're going to have New Jersey and New York City and Philadelphia have as low as snow as what you had last year. That was crazy.
There was almost no snow.
Yeah, it was like 0.6 inches or something, I think, in Philly.
Yeah, something like that.
That's hard to do.
They definitely didn't get a lot out that way. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more of that this year, but I think, well, as we kind of said in the forecast there, more of a mild and dry winter along the East Coast. But that doesn't mean no snow. It doesn't mean less than half an inch for sure. You could still get a good snowstorm that drops, 6, 7, 8 inches of snow, and it might be it this season.
Yeah.
We'll see. Let's see. A couple other things here. Now we're kind of getting back into stuff we covered already. Tyler also asked much for cold air this winter. The cold air is going to be mostly up in the northern plains, into the Intermountain West, and then even into the western Great Lakes, part of Michigan. Where you're at in southwest Michigan, you're going to be on that northern edge of that battleground. So at times you will get some cold blasts of cold, and other times not so much. Tracy said she just jumped in here. She says, are we getting a lot of snow this year? She's in Ohio. We're in the battleground. Without getting too crazy with it, our video is going to obviously be available on our Facebook page. It's also going to be just the video portion only. We will post to our YouTube page, and it's also on our website. You can take a look at it at your convenience. But for Ohio,
we'll write a blog post around this. That'll be on the site.
Yeah, for Ohio, depending on exactly where you're at, and it will vary a little bit, will probably be near average for the most part. Again, depending where you're at.
Closer to average for sure. And again, their chance is there for far northern Ohio to be close enough in that very moist precip field where if you have enough cold air at times, it could be above average snowfall. But you have to see it. If it's just going to be a very warm winter, then you're literally threading the needle to get multiple major storms to be able to get the necessary accumulation, especially in the lake effect areas that normally make up a lot of their snowfall from lake effect storms where you have to have the cold air. If it's going to have to be relying on system snows, it's probably not going to be great.
Right, exactly. Tracy says thank you, and you're welcome. And she's in Barberton, by the way.
Okay. Nice.
Wayne also says it's a stretch. It's way out there, but wants to know about early spring, like March and April. Are we going to not see much snow? And to be honest, boy, we're at that point right now. I think we're tossing a coin up in the air and just kind of flat out guessing.
Yeah, it's far out.
It's a little too far
We've
out.
seen a lot of spring patterns that totally are different than winter. Looking at things,
We've seen some spring patterns that are winter.
exactly.
Like last winter.
The last couple years have literally seen just the same weather from late fall through early spring, maybe even mid-spring, with hardly any variation. Winter wasn't anywhere near as cold as it should have been. Fall and spring were colder. It was like 6 months of winter-ish and then like 6 months of summer. So, some of the research that I did, it looked like it could be back into a colder pattern again for spring, but very far out. The amount of credible accuracy when you're talking about almost a half a year out is...
Yep.
Let me check the YouTubes again.
All right, yeah, very good. We'll take your questions here for a few more minutes and then probably wrap this up. So if you do have any other questions on anything, just feel free to, post below where you are watching. Of course, you can always go to our website, neoweather.us, get the latest information on what we offer there, especially if you're a snow contractor, or really anybody. We got quite a bit we can do. How are we doing on YouTube?
All right, so somebody from Youngstown is talking about the snowiest year on record back in 2010, 2011 there, 118 inches. And you guys have your reporting station up in Vienna Township there in the kind of secondary snow belt, if you will, definitely in some higher terrain. So you guys get a lot more of the lake effect snow than true, like downtown Youngstown, Boardman, Canfield area. But no, we will not be seeing anything close to that. That would be pretty crazy to get to those numbers. And then we had a question about snowfall in Delaware. It looks like a very mild winter overall. You're not going to have a super active storm track. Should be well below average snowfall, I think, once you get closer to the I-95 corridor for sure. But yeah, kind of what you were saying with the snow contractors, we do serve municipalities, we serve school districts, that's for the winter time.
Yep.
We also do forecasts for gas and energy companies, and then construction companies year round. We do landscaping, so a nice amount of different types of services that we can provide you that's all customized weather information.
Absolutely. And we don't have any other questions here, so we'll maybe give it another minute or two, see if anybody can think of anything to challenge us with. And no, seriously,
stump the weatherman.
Don't stump the weatherman. That's too easy. That's an easy game to play. You don't want to do that.
In the summer of 1981, what was the high temperature on July 25th?
Pull out my own.
I don't know. So guys, I definitely appreciate you watching and joining us here. If you do like this type of content and if you like Neoweather, we would certainly appreciate the support. That would be awesome. So likes and shares are like currency to us. It helps us grow and reach more people. If you do have friends and family members that are involved with snow contractors, with different municipalities, any of the companies that we serve, we would certainly appreciate it if you let them know about us. We can really make a difference for sure.
Absolutely. We actually, quite a bit goes into producing this, not just the graphics or just the video, but even the live session too. I know I started building this a couple days ago so we could kind of be ready. It does take some time. Plus I had some new things to play with, so I wanted to make sure I had some time. But do appreciate you joining us. Luke has one question. He wants to know if we'll see any flooding situations later in the winter.
Wouldn't be surprised.
I would not be too surprised either. Yeah, it's hard to tell, obviously. Flooding's much more situational specific. But it does happen. It doesn't happen every winter, but we do see it from time to time, especially around here.
You're not going to probably get the situation where you have a lot of snow melting and a lot of ice dam buildup and stuff like that, where all of a sudden you have a big rainstorm with all that happening. But what we could see is just such an active, moist pattern with a good flow coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, plus the Pacific jet stream providing extra moisture, where it's just a system. It's kind of like what we saw today, a very robust system with 1 inch, 2-3 inches of rain.
Without the hurricane embedded in it.
It's 2020, you never know.
Now,
Christmas
actually,
Day, cane snowstorm.
They are still monitoring, I think the Southern Caribbean, there is still some tropical activity, and you may see another named storm coming up here. I believe Ada's next on the list.
Got to brush up on the Greek alphabet.
I think that's what I saw. I'm going by something I saw earlier, so I'm not 100% sure, but I do know they are watching some activity on there that could potentially develop and that would move into the Gulf as well. So
Hurricane season does technically still go into November.
Yeah,
It's winding
it does,
down though.
Yeah, it does wind down, but it certainly does, and it's been very active this year. It was predicted to be very active, and really, it's no surprise. We came out of a very quiet period of tropical activity. Really, kind of just last year is when everything kind of started waking up. And really, if you think about it, it was about a 20-year cycle between things kind of calming down and coming back up. I mean, I know we had Katrina and Rita in 2005. That wasn't an extremely active year. Those are just two big storms that
It was
did
an
a lot
active
of
year.
damage.
There's a lot of storms.
There
that
was a
year.
lot of storms?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, see, my memory's slipping.
There's a lot of storms.
I wasn't much into tropical weather back then.
Yeah, I'm not I don't know. I can't fully get it. It's not my favorite type. We'll say that. I love all types of weather. I would love to be in a tropical storm, but
I'll pass on that.
okay,
So
our
really,
colleague Denver was in the
15
90
years.
mile per hour winds yesterday with
Yes, he
Zeta
was.
there, so that's pretty cool.
So we'll go about a 15-year law from 05 to almost 2020. 14, 15-year law. Things really kind of calmed down. So no surprise that this year was active, really. Everything kind of happens in a cycle. And yeah, it's...
Yeah, we'll probably be picking it up again
normal.
here off and on. And sometimes the years you don't have that many active systems, so there's not that many numbers. But you have the one big one that makes landfall in a populated area, and it's the story.
Yep.
It just
That's
depends.
usually how it works.
Same thing with our winter storms. It doesn't mean that this winter couldn't possibly be memorable if you just string a couple together. Anything else?
No, Luke adds that we're tied this year, 2005, for the most named.
Yep.
And that's right,
Way
2004
up
we
there.
had Francis and Ivan that caused a lot of flooding up here, and that's right.
Yes,
I forget
those
about
were the
that.
flood events, and then like 2008, I think we had Ike.
We had Ike.
The
It was
big wind event.
2009.
2009.
2009, yep. No other questions here, but one last check at the old YouTube there, and if nothing, we'll just go ahead
Yeah, we got
and
nothing.
we will wrap this up for this year.
Awesome.
All
They
right.
keep on going down.
Yeah.
One year after the next. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Please do like and follow us online.
Yep, and we'll see you right back here next year. You guys have a good night.
Take care, guys. Thank you.